This is my first jvlog. Actually, I've made videos on here before, but it was like way back in 2011 when Obama was president. I make video tutorials about how to use different Japanese apps when I was in university, and I was and still kind of am a fan of like Hatsune Miku and like Vocaloid and stuff, so most of my videos in the past were about you know, how to use Japanese apps on your phone, because a lot of people didn't know how to download it or use it. I also made a mini vlog of when I used to live in China, but I didn't really have that much time, and in China they block YouTube, so it didn't really go anywhere. But anyways, in this video I'll talk about what it's like to be brown in Japan. I think there's a lot to unpack here. I made this video because I've seen absolutely zero videos about being desi women on YouTube. And it would come to the point where my friends who already live in Japan would refer their brown friends to me before coming here to work for Eikaiwa or Jet, because there's literally nobody making videos about this, and I think visibility is really important. Also, this is part 1 of a series that I'm doing. I'll talk about how I actually got interested into coming here in Japan in the first place, and in part 2, which is the next video I'll make, I'll talk about my actual experiences here in Japan as a brown person. So yeah, I hope this helps some of you out there. Just FYI, I'm first generation Pakistani American. My father immigrated to the US in the 1970s, and my mom immigrated from Karachi in the 1990s, and I was their first child. I was born in 1982, and Urdu is technically my first language, but now English and Japanese are my better languages, and I consider English to be my native language, or my heart language. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area, and I'm currently a 5th year ALT in the JET program, and I moved to Japan in August 2014. I originally never really vlogged before my 5th year here because I just didn't have any time, and I felt that I needed to be in Japan for a longer amount of time and really immerse myself in my city where I live to a certain degree before really coming to any sort of conclusion of what it's like to actually live here and how I'm actually being perceived by locals here. So I felt like I really needed that experience to back up what my claims are going to be. And I'm really glad I waited this long so I can make more sound arguments. Also, because of my 5th year, I'm getting this like tendency to not really care so much what other people think. So I think this sense of confidence I have is really helping me making videos like later instead of before. Also, I'll make a few disclaimers before I talk about what I'm going to talk about. I will talk about white privilege. I will talk about Western privilege a lot in this video and in the next one. This does not mean I hate white people or anything. I really don't hate anyone, and this is not an expression of hatred. This is just a constructive criticism I'm making about society in general. I'm just acknowledging the reality in this world. Different ethnicities and nationalities are perceived with various degrees of scrutiny in the world in general, in any country, not just Japan, not just the US. And if you would like more literature about the concepts like white privilege or ethnocentrism, I'm more than happy to send you articles and refer you to different YouTubers you can watch. Just message me or post a comment or something. So first, I'll talk about what I thought being brown in Japan would be like before coming here. Then I'll talk about my actual experiences and my cultural journey coming to Japan. I've loved Japan ever since I was 8 years old. I think like most people, I started watching anime like Sailor Moon, as you can see in Utena. And it really changed my life. I know a lot of people say, ew, you like anime, you're such a weeb. But I think there's a difference between being a weeaboo and being genuinely interested in another culture that just happens to be leading in the world when it comes to arts and entertainment. I think people underestimate how powerful and how much of a positive impact a pop culture could have. I think people really underestimate how powerful and how much of a positive impact pop culture can have in this world. Just take a look at Terrace House, Steven Universe, Black Panther, Kamala Khan, all these, Moana, like Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, ooh, like all of these fandoms. I need to edit this video. To be honest, I think people really underestimate how powerful and how much of a positive impact pop culture can have in the world. There's the difference between having an interest in a cultural product and having a fetish. Just look at all these expats coming to Korea thanks to K-pop, BTS. Or Japanese people getting interested in English thanks to Marvel movies. Anyways, I didn't know Sailor Moon was Japanese at all when I was little. Probably because in the English version I saw on TV in the US, Usagi was Serena and onigiri were like donuts. But when I was around 11 years old, something happened. I rented a DVD from Hollywood Video of the Super S season of Sailor Moon. And when I popped the DVD in, Moonlight Densetsu started playing. And I fell in love with the song, and I was so curious about why it was sounding that way. Because at that point, I had never heard Japanese before in my life. And then I realized it was on Japanese audio and it had English subtitles, and that Sailor Moon was Japanese down there the whole time, like mind blown. I started going online and I'd find out about other J-pop artists thanks to anime and online forums. I used to be really active on Tofu Records, AZM Pop, and Soompi. And I became pretty addicted to J-pop and K-pop along with J-dramas and K-dramas, and I was kind of a weirdo in school because no one else liked it. I got interested in Japan, and I was thinking of working here someday, but I knew that it wouldn't be easy for me because I wasn't white or white passing. And trying to find information at the beginning of the internet age, back in the day when everyone had dial-up, really confirmed this. I'd end up finding blogs, and I came to the conclusion that the most simple and feasible way to live in Japan was to be a teacher on JET, but every single blog was written by a white person at the time. This was like early 2000s. All of the JET and Eikaiwa advertisements, at the time only featured white people to signify gaijin. And the sad part was I wasn't even surprised. I was expecting it. I was like, okay, I'm probably not gonna find anyone who looks like me or has my background, but ironically in this international organization, but let's do this. I grew up in DC after 9/11, so like from day one I realized that even in America, my race, my religion at the time, my identity, my existence was not really accepted anywhere. And it was stigmatized a lot. And I know that even in Pakistan, they have skin bleaching products and white people are more welcome than actual people in the community sometimes. And white privilege permeates Asian society, period, in East Asia and South Asia. Like, there's no denying it. So JET was in the back of my mind, but I never thought I'd actually be welcomed in Japan. Then I was 17. It was the summer before my senior year of high school. And my high school actually has a collaboration with this organization called EF Tours. It was like a tour company, but their main focus was education. So they would collaborate with schools in the country and give tours. And I think it's international, so there's even a Japanese branch. But anyway, I wanted to take Japanese in high school, but my school didn't offer it. So I ended up taking French for 4 years in the IB program. I was full IB. And so anyways, every year this company and my school would choose a different country, but this time they chose Japan. And it was this summer, and this is exactly like 10 years ago from today, from July. So yeah, it was about 10 years ago, and at that point, I had only seen pictures of Japan online, and I really liked it. I followed a lot of live journal groups, and I was like obsessed with Japanese fashion, gyadu, all that stuff. But I wanted to see it for myself. I wasn't sure if what I thought of Japan was purely, you know, weebish, if it was like from an idealized point of view. I wanted to see what the country was actually like. And so... So I saved up all the money I had made for my first time part-time job. I worked at Pizza Hut, and I went on this trip. And no lie, it changed my life forever. The tour was way better than any photograph, any YouTube vlog I could have possibly seen. And I didn't even know hiragana or katakana at the time, but I learned basic phrases. And I interacted with locals to an extent. There was another high school group with us, because our group was really small. And I believe they were from a Catholic school in Philadelphia or something, or Pennsylvania or something, and they had Japanese at their school. So the people there, you know, the kids there, like, they learned Japanese to an extent. And I saw them interacting with the tour guide and other people in Japanese and doing things so easily, and it made me really happy. I was like the only person of color in the whole tour group besides like the tour guide who was Japanese, but yeah, it felt really good seeing other people use Japanese. And yeah, that really inspired me to try to study it in university. Also, I have a funny mini story. This one night, at that time, I really was very majime. Like, I never drank, I never smoked, I never went... The thought of going clubbing it didn't come to my mind, but my tour guide was awesome, and she told us about this cool club in Osaka, and we were only in Osaka like for one night, so we literally went out clubbing until 1 a.m. and we went to this club called Club Neo. I think it's shut down now because I tried to look it up, I couldn't find anything. But Club Neo had a lot of gyaru and gyaruo in it, and they were dancing pada pada. And I was in heaven, and I was so happy because I actually knew all the dances, because I was really into pada pada back in the day. And I would go on forums like Ricochet, and I would download videos, and I would follow the dance moves. And so I was like the only one in my group who knew the dance moves, so they brought me on stage, and I was dancing with all the gyaru and gyaruo. I was like dying. I was like... And then afterwards, like, the gyaru and gyaruo, they tried to speak to me in Japanese, but I couldn't say anything. I literally did not know what they were trying to say. And I felt so bad. And I felt like it was a conversation that I could have had if I just spoke Japanese, you know. And I felt like if I just learned Japanese, I could really interact with people here and, you know, embrace the things I had already liked before, like anime or pada pada or something, like any niche thing I really liked. So, and when I came back from this trip, I made this decision in my mind. I wanted to study international affairs and Asian studies in university. Unfortunately, that never really happened because my parents are very typical Pakistani immigrant parents, and I understood why. Once I told my parents that I wanted to be a diplomat or an ambassador, they totally shut it down, and they were like, they wanted me to be a doctor or an engineer. Actually, fun fact, my grandfather was a diplomat back in Pakistan, and apparently he experienced a lot of corrupt things. He used to he passed away now, but he would travel between India, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan, and he knew all the languages. And my dad, he speaks now he speaks Turkish, Urdu, and English. Like, he's such a polyglot. I think he knows more languages than that, but yeah, and so it was understandable about why my parents were worried, especially with that kind of situation. But I also felt like they didn't understand how happy and successful I could be, especially since the university I ended up going to was #1 in international affairs, basically, and it was the most politically active school in the nation. And yeah, the School of International Affairs was really famous at the school, but I just couldn't major in it. But I still went. And yeah, I think in my entire life I always felt this heavy weight on my shoulders. I always felt very guilty for wanting to pursue something besides engineering or medicine or something, because, you know, they worked so hard to come here, and I'm the first child, and, you know, I have this opportunity to go to university, so I should be going for the most profitable or seemingly profitable degree out there, but shogunai. So I decided to do a compromise. Originally I majored in computer science and Japanese as a double major. I was thinking of working as a software engineer for a company like Nintendo, and I had read that a lot of Indian people in Japan were engineers and they were under the MEC scholarship, and that it's very easy, not easy, but like it's very possible to get the MEC scholarship if you're in the sciences, and the degree would be in English. And I liked engineering to an extent, honestly. Like, I was a script kiddie. I used to make games in high school. I taught myself how to do animation with Photoshop and Flash, and I would teach myself some basic code to make games as well. But the problem was I didn't actually like coding as a job. I would just sit there all day and debug programs, and I didn't really have a chance to interact with anyone. And yeah, I just had this gut feeling that this profession was not for me. And also, I didn't have time to properly study Japanese at all. See, when you become a Japanese major, you don't only study the language. You also have to understandably study the history, literature, and take even more prerequisites, because the School of Arts and Sciences, which is where this major is from, is completely different from the School of Engineering. So the prerequisites and the humanities credits are also quite different. And my university did not take in any of my IB credits, even though I scored really well on the exams, like they did for AP. If I was full AP, I would skip a year or something. But I had so much on my plate, and I was always stressed out, and I was also feeling really unhappy and hopeless most of the time. I also did a lot of part-time jobs. One of them was tutoring after school at a charter school in the south end of DC. And I was tutoring low-income kids and helping them read. And it was honestly the most rewarding job I've ever had in my life. And at that moment, that's when I realized that I really liked teaching instead. And I was also supposed to study abroad in Waseda in Tokyo, but Fukushima happened. And my university canceled all of our visas out of liability. They said we could either graduate without fulfilling the study abroad requirement as a Japanese major, or we could go next year, but you would have to graduate a year later. And I decided that this is a sign that I shouldn't pursue this. So I actually switched out of both majors, and I decided to major in English by my sophomore year, late into my sophomore year. And English Lit was my favorite class anyways. I didn't tell my parents until my senior year in university though. But they seemed fine with it, like, in the end, because once you're in your 20s, I think your Asian parents just like give up. But no, they're seriously proud of me now. But yeah, my university Japanese program is also really, 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 really tiny. Like, sometimes there's only like 3 or 4 people graduating with this degree. Maybe 2. I think it was just 2. So even though I wanted to take the class, there would only be 1 time slot available, and it would conflict with any other class I needed to graduate for my other majors anyway. So even if I wanted to take Japanese in my university, I couldn't, especially if I wanted to graduate on time. So it was just a mess. And unfortunately, because I wasn't able to take as many classes, and because I wasn't able to study abroad, I ended up graduating with only like a very low level of Japanese. In my opinion, it was a low level. I think it was like N5 or N4 on the JLBT. And I hadn't taken the JLBT, but I knew. I was probably N5 or N4. Plus some weeaboo Japanese. But something also happened. So when I was at university during my sophomore and junior year, I noticed that there were more jvloggers of color, or just vloggers in color in general, especially in Korea. And some of the jvloggers were Latino men, and all of the women of color happened to be black women, at least the ones I followed. I think there was one Latino woman I followed, but she was white passing, so. And they started coming up on YouTube, and it was honestly so reassuring. I'd see Kemishi-chan studying Japanese, or Smart Aleki's journey to motherhood, and how Chicano Chicano Samurai or something. How this guy named Tino moved from California to Japan, or Gimme a Flake Band being totally savage. I love Gimme a Flake Band. Also, I managed to figure out that. Also, I actually found a brown YouTuber when I was at university. I think he's Bangladeshi Canadian. His username was Aussie78, but I think now he goes by Aussie Awesome. He still makes a lot of cool videos. I think at one point I actually reached out to him at the time, and he was super reassuring. And thanks to him and all these jvloggers, this literally relieved any doubt I had in myself. I didn't see like an exact mirror of what makes me a minority, but it was enough to encourage me to apply to the JET program. So during my junior year, I found this organization with my university that offered international internships that you could do for a semester or two. They had thousands and thousands of listings, and I wanted to go for Japan, obviously. So I applied relentlessly, and all of the non-translator ones were teaching jobs at an eikaiwa, or hoikuen. And you didn't need to know any Japanese whatsoever, and you'd have a host family and you're set. I applied to literally over 40 jobs. So guess how many Skype interviews I got? I only got 2. And guess how many people wanted to hire me? 0. I got rejected because I was not a white person. I wasn't a generic white girl, I'm sorry. And I could tell. I could tell it was because of my race. Some of these applications asked me to submit a photo of myself, so I did. And when I came on Skype, the eikaiwa owner asked me why I was in America if I wasn't American. Like, they really had a hard time believing that I was American. And as for the other job, the huikuen was more like direct with me. They actually sent me an email and they said that they wanted East European applicants only, which was really confusing and contradictory to what they wrote in the original listing. In the original listing, they specifically stated that they wanted American native speakers. Hello, that it is me. That's me, but it didn't surprise me, but it made me really, really upset because I really wanted to go to Japan and I just couldn't do it because of the universe. I'd also watch videos that were more honest about these kinds of things happening to people. I remember this one YouTuber, I still follow her. Her name is Charlie Cheer. She's awesome. Please follow her. And she would talk about the similar things happening to hagwons, which are like Korean eikaiwa, but in Korea. And so I was more emotionally prepared for that to happen because there were other people, reassuring that this is a common thing. And maybe I even dodged a bullet, who knows? Why would I work for someone who worships white people and who thinks I'm less worthy of coming to their country and less worthy of teaching them about another culture or language purely because I'm more diverse? I don't know. But that didn't make it any less difficult. In the end, I decided to go to China because it was new to me, and because the deal was pretty sweet. I got a really, really cool host family that traveled around China with the intern, and it was the highest paying one to teach English. And I have a lot of interesting experiences here, there, both good and bad. It kind of even made me change my religion a bit. So if you want me to make a video about that, you can comment below and tell me and reassure me. But yeah, overall my China experience was pretty good. I definitely learned a lot, and I was so happy that I was actually the first Pakistani American. A lot of people, well, I think almost every single person I met in China, I was the first Pakistani American they had ever met in their entire life. And it made me kind of proud. It made me feel special. Like, I was the first one. Oh, yeah. And back to the story. So long story short, during my senior year of university, I applied to the JET program. And I scored an interview at the embassy in Washington, D.C., and at the same time, I also did an internship related to Japan on the side in DC. And in my JET application, I mostly talked about being first generation American and how representation was so important for me, to even like convince me to even think that I had a chance of getting in, or that I should even try to go to Japan. And how I believe my presence and my interactions could expose Japanese students to how diverse and multicultural the U.S. actually was. I also talked about how, despite being a nation of immigrants, people outside the U.S., especially Japan, don't realize that a lot of Americans are not white, and we don't even celebrate the same holidays half the time. And later on, I got a call from the embassy telling me that I got accepted, and I was so elated. I was so happy. I was jumping on the bed in my dorm, no lie. And I was jamming to One Room Disco by Perfume. They placed me at a high school in Hamamatsu, Shizuoka. And this city actually has one of the highest immigrant populations in Japan. Most of these immigrants are Brazilians. It has the highest Brazilian population outside Brazil. And there's a long history of that. I actually wrote an article about this. I'll post the link down below. So, in the next part, I'll actually talk about my experiences being brown in Japan. So, I hope you stay tuned. Bye! Mata ne!